Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right, let's get back to Zimbabwe, shall we? So this is actually good news. So gas was found in Zimbabwe by Australian energy group Invictus. Discovery of samples raises hopes that nation hit by power shortages could become a producer. So Invictus Energy has discovered gas in Zimbabwe, raising hopes that the landlocked southern African nation could become a producer decades after ExxonMobil abandoned a search for oil in the region. The Australian-based company said 4 samples from a well in the north had shown the presence of gas in a country that has suffered severe power shortages and endured years of economic hardship. Shares of Invictus surged 28% to 20, it looks like it says 20 cents, is that right? On Thursday. So 28% to 20 cents, not bad. The highest daily rise in a year, although from a low base. So that might be something to consider, that investing into Invictus, right? But that's over in Australia. The discovery represents one of the most significant developments in the onshore Southern Africa oil and gas industry for decades. Sydney listed Invictus, which used data collected by Mobil before it merged with Exxon, will drill more wells at the Cabarabassa project to find how much gas there is, and production could be years away. So I guess now would be the time to jump onto that stock. What do you think? Valuable gas for energy generations could help relieve the power shortage that have caused big disruptions for major miners operating in the country. Yeah, but if you're trying to get some foreign outside investors to come into the country and you're having problems with energy, just like over there in Iraq, that's not good. You need something that's consistent. At present, platinum producers, including a unit of Anglo-American, Chinese-backed lithium miners and gold companies, have to pay to import electricity from abroad. The tip of Africa has seen a renaissance in oil and gas exploration since these two neighbors discovered vast offshore gas finds more than a decade ago. Discoveries onshore, where resources could be plugged into local industrialization and not just exported to world markets, remain rare. Total Energies and Shell are among the investors betting on deepwater oil discoveries in Namibia. South Africa is hoping to tap gas off its coast. Zimbabwe might appear an unlikely candidate to join them given its forbidding reputation for abuse of resources, wealth, and political chaos that has persisted since the downfall of Robert Mugabe in 2017 coup. See, this is what I'm talking about. This kind of crap right here. See this? Political chaos. Them guys ripping off the resources to get rich off it from the people. Under Emerson, who was elevated to power by Zimbabwe's military and was reelected as president in a disputed vote this year, the country's wealth in gold and diamonds remains tainted by allegations of systematic looting. Mnangagwa's ruling ZANU-PF has been in power since the independence in 1980. Yeah, see, they're just keeping wealth for themselves. It's very, very corrupt over there. This is why Zimbabwe is not going to be able to get their crap together. They have to do something about this type of government. When you steal the money and the resources from the nation for yourself instead of giving it to the people, this is why their economy is always going to suck and they're always going to struggle until they finally rise up and do something about it. Historically, natural resources extraction in Zimbabwe has tended to only benefit a political elite, often at the expense of local communities and ordinary citizens, and failed to translate into development gains. This is exactly why that currency won't go nowhere. Invictus said that gas by its nature was less susceptible to those risks. Gas is a different type of resource because you need pipelines, infrastructure, and long-term customers. It is a very different scenario from precious metals, which are fungible and move more easily. Zimbabwe's pension funds are amongst the investors in Invictus, and the company and the project will eventually need a production sharing deal with the Zimbabwe state. Mobil stopped exploring because they thought there was no way for them to commercialize gas, which was true in the early 1990s due to the power crisis. We live in a very different environment now from commercialization perspective. Often with gas developments, you have to wait for customers and markets. There are existing consumers in Zimbabwe who are paying hard cash to import electricity. So this is good for at least the elected elite in Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, not for the people. Zim dollar bloodbath is set to continue into coming year. See what dollars they're using? This is what I'm talking about. The depreciation of the Zim dollar in 2023 is likely to spill into 2024, with experts forecasting an increase in the cost of doing business, production, and increased pressure on the exchange rate. The local currency has been in free fall this year, shredding record values against the greenbacks over the past year. For instance, in June this year, the Zim dollar suffered a bloodbath, prompting United States-based applied economics professor Steve Hanks to warn against hyperinflation after monthly inflation reached 102 by his measure. See, this is the thing that blows my mind about countries like Zimbabwe, Iraq, Venezuela. These people suffer, and it really sucks because their countries are really rich with resources. And unfortunately, they have such corrupt governments, and there's nothing they could do about it because their governments took away their weapons. This week, economists stated that a loss in value by the Zim dollar is likely to blight the country's business environment, thereby worsening standards of living. As long as we are in a dual currency framework and the fact that most people have lost confidence, I think that is going to put a lot of pressure even next year on the exchange rate. And also next year, given that there's a El Nino that could result in diminished agriculture production, which will affect pricing, government spending, imports, and so on. So all that will have is a destabilizing effect. And that will also weaken the local currency. So next year, we expect a trend in terms of local currency to continue on account of the expected challenges with the respect to El Nino. Government will have to import food, and even electricity generation will be affected. It will mean that the businesses will be under pressure to continue with their use of generators, which will again affect the cost of production, the cost of doing business, and that will also affect inflation, which will have depreciating effects on the local currency. The Zim dollar has continued weakening in the final quarter of 2023, according to an economic report produced by the Zimbabwe Coalition on Debt and Development. In September of 2023, the Zim dollar lost 15.7% of its value against the US dollar to close the month at that exchange rate. What gets me is they were doing really good, and we've seen huge jumps in the value of the Zim dollar once they started selling those gold coins. So I don't know what happened, but it looks like they just went to crap after that. This was a significant monthly decline relative to August of 2023 when the local unit slightly lost 1.9 to close that particular exchange rate. In the alternative markets, the Zim dollar lost at least 15% of its value to close the month at an average. As a result, the Zim dollar worsening decline, particularly in alternative markets, the parallel market exchange premia are now widening. The rise of the Zim dollar depreciation pressures experienced since the turn of September of 2023 are emanating from the resumption of Zim dollar payments to government contractors and other services providers who in turn dumped the local unit in the street cashing value for US dollars. The ZIG is an additional payment method for settling local transactions, buying and selling of goods and services. These digital tokens, gold e-wallets, have their own exchange rate, which is derived from the prevailing international price of gold. Probably better for the Zimbabwe citizens. So now you understand what I'm talking about. They're just so corrupt over there, they're never going to get their crap together until somebody goes in there, removes that government, and you put a real government, politicians who really care for the people. But you got to understand there's nations out there like the United States that like these corrupt people in charge because they're easy to bribe and easy to get in there and steal the resources right out from the people. Unfortunately. Anyways, that's it for now. Let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. I am out.